All right, so we're continuing from where we're talking about David Allen and his GTD, getting things done, mindset and attitude. And it's really important to understand that he's approaching it from an organizational standpoint. So it's personal, but all as at the same time, it's a system that you can trust, that you can rely on. And if you go and give it 100% of the belief that it will work, and then you put it into action, it'll be of service to you. If you don't trust it, if you don't empower it, if you don't believe it'll work, you're going to have difficulty with it. And I heard something funny today. There was, Melissa was doing some of her personal development in the morning, and I love that about her, and one of the million things. But she was listening to something, and it was funny, but it was, the person who was talking about it was a satirist. So the satire is how they communicate, and they're trying to connect with other people so that they establish some common ground, and that's what they're doing. They're mixing facts in there with their satire, which is okay, because that's their message. They're trying to make you laugh. They're also trying to make you think and laugh. But the funny thing in this kind of confused communication style of satire is that deep down inside, it usually, satire especially, comes from a bit of a truth mixed in with a bit of fear, and then the frustration that kind of goes with it. So when we're talking about the execution and empowering a system or something like that, when you have a system and it's proven that it works, if you go 100% in, it'll work. You can have your own fears that it's not going to work, and your fear might be of it not being successful, so you don't commit 100%. And when you don't commit 100%, the system fails. But the system doesn't fail, you fail. You fail because you didn't use and empower the system to execute the way that it's meant to be. So you have to commit 100% to it, and systems that are proven to work, they'll continue to do so. You might have to change some of the variables, like but other than that, it's there to work. So when you understand the purpose of a system, and it's already been proven that it works and it works and it works and it works, and you do it, chances are whoever developed the system, if you commit 100% to it and it doesn't work and you reach out to them, there's probably, like a bug in the software. So like if my phone doesn't work for whatever reason and I submit something to Apple, chances are if they get enough of those submissions, or even just one submission, they're probably going to look at it because they want the system to work. And so then they send out a response, and then they fix the bug in the software. So it's the same thing with systems. So you have to be honest with yourself, give feedback, track, and give it a chance to work. Those systems are your morning systems, your morning habits, your morning routines. And the same thing goes with what we're talking about with David Allen, getting things done. Most people just don't allow a system to work. When we're working with people, the main thing that we're looking at to do with people is to optimize. We want to optimize their situation. We want to find out what they're trying to do and then optimize it. Sometimes people they get stuck in a situation, or they have an obstacle, or something comes up that they feel that they can't get past potentially, or it's overwhelming and it's too much and it's too foreign to them or unfamiliar for them to be able to wrap their head around it. So like, because of the specificity of that information. So what you have to do is you have to generalize, back off, generalize, and allow yourself the opportunity, and it's a very, very powerful technique, to just think about what if, and then try to find some other things that you can connect with. So like if you're trying to overcome an injury or something along those lines, then you need to see some other people who are similar to you, maybe a similar situation, or from a similar location, or they have similar goals, or they were hurt in a similar way, or is a similar sport, or all the above. And it may be you're a male and they're a male, or they're a female and you're a female, whatever the situation is general as you need to at the beginning, and then as specific on the tail end as possible to be helpful for you. And then see how they overcome that obstacle, see the mistakes they made along the way, the things that they did right along the way, and then connect with them on a personal level, from like seeing what their story was, what were their experiences, what were their, most people are willing to be vulnerable, like Lewis Howe says, and put themselves out there. Brene Brown talks about it too. And that point at which they express and they reveal themselves and their true story to you, then there's deep knowledge there. And you can connect with that. And then you take their story and pull it into your book. And it's not that you're, I guess you could say, repurposing it, but you're using that as inspiration. Everybody's inspired from something. So you're inspired by their actions, and then you take action on that. And so it's really important to understand that from a level. And in order to do that, the first thing you have to do is, Jim Harshaw talks about this all the time on his podcast. He talks about hit the pause button. It's like, pause button is right there. So I hit the pause button, and now you can stop and think. So a lot of people are doing, and they're doing all the time. Or some people are just thinking. The people who are thinking all the time, they need to do. And the people who are doing need to stop and think for a second. And pause, reflect on the situation, think about what could be in a good way, what could improve, how could this be great, and then you move forward from there. It's really important to take that pause. So let's move on. One of the things I want to talk about today was the Taurus in the hair. And this relates specifically to people's development. So recently, my daughter committed to play beach volleyball at UNC Wilmington. She's so excited. We couldn't be happier. Love the people, love the place, love everything about it. It's awesome. That was where she wanted to go, and you could see when she came back, she fell in love with the place. So like, she was done looking. Like, that was it. She was committed to it. It was going to happen. Tony, the same thing. Like, he fell in love with the University of Virginia, and he's going to wrestle at a fabulous institution for some great coaches and just great people to be around. And he's so excited about that. So how did they get there? Consistency, excitement, internal and external, because that consistency is often internal, the excitement is often external. Clarity, goals, and then the go. And Tyler was very different than Tony, but both were committed in their own way, and they both were consistent in their own way. And that's what I'm going to talk about with the tortoise and the hare. The story is old as time, Aesop's fables. It's misinterpreted widely, but the main concept of it is perseverance winneth. And perseverance and consistency. Perseverance is probably a little bit more appropriate than consistency, because perseverance means potentially that there were some obstacles along the way and you just kept on going. That doesn't mean that you didn't hit a pause along the way to come up with a better strategy to improve on your actions, but you continued. Now, as this relates to what I'm talking about today, I'm talking about summertime schedules and travel. Parents mean well, athletes mean well, coaches mean well. Unfortunately, they don't understand the downside of, a lot of parents are like, well, we got to get our kid to, all these tournaments over the summer. That's great, you do. And then I tell them, don't take a break from practice or training, human development. You need 2 training sessions a week just to not lose your gains. The same thing, practice is even more than that. Practice is almost like flexibility training. It's a 24-hour window. You don't need a ton of it, but you do need to utilize film, get a little bit of practice or drilling in, make it fun, make it light, but you need to do that. If you take the summer off, it's just like the whole educational failure of understanding of education. You can't go to school and then take the entire summer off from education and think you're making progress. You are not making progress if you take the summer off. So during the summer, you need to get on Khan Academy, or you need to, start watching TED Talks, or you need to do some studying on your own, or reading a book is not enough. You need to read books. Readers are leaders, leaders are readers, or great leaders are readers. But the bottom line is, you have to be consistent. You can't take the time off. I don't care if you come work with us, that's fine. But you can't take the time off if you think you're going to be at a high level. If you're going to take time off from training and development, you will be so far behind where you could have been in an exponential way that you will never get that back. You can continue to move forward and kind of readjust your goals and, do your best from that point, but you will not get to the same level that you could have been. It's impossible. You're behind, and then you're behind being behind. And then that's that whole mindset of thinking about yesterday